Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming along. As you all know, the purpose of this webinar is to give advice and top tips for those of you that are looking to go through full membership or maybe even professional registration on some do's and don'ts on professional discussions themselves. I think the purpose of this is we've had some people apply recently that probably should have got through full membership successfully but didn't have such a great professional discussion, which meant it was tough for them to get through or possibly even downgraded. So that's the reason for this. We're very grateful to be joined by Fraser and Bill, who are two of our assessors for both full membership and professional registration. And at this point, I'll hand over to the guys to introduce themselves. Just a bit of housekeeping first. If everyone could do Q&As in the chat box, we'll get to those at the end of the session. Where I'll advise the questions to Fraser and Bill. But at this point, I'll hand over to you guys. If you'd like to briefly introduce yourselves, please, and get started.
After you, Fraser.
Okay. So my name's Fraser Levy. I'm an independent security contractor, usually mainly working in public sector, and I've been in the industry for about 25 years. And I've been doing interviews of varying descriptions for CIISec, probably for over a decade now, I would imagine. And as Connor says, across the full membership and the professional registration schemes. And Bill?
Yep. So hi everyone. I'm Bill. I've been working in defence and security for coming up to 40 years now. So 20 years in the army, and then the last 20 years in industry, both on the industry side and then government side. I've only quite recently done my professional registration and joined and done the interviews. So I've gone through it. So it's fairly fresh for me. So I went through both chartership and the membership just before Christmas, and I've been doing interviews for the professional discussions since about September last year. So kind of someone who's just recently gone through it, and then also recently seen people on both sides from the discussions. And without further ado, I'll start going through the slides, and then Fraser will chip in as and when. So really, this is just top tips to be successful. And as has been already said, no one's trying to catch people out on these professional discussions. And what we're trying to give you today is the best possible advice on how to successfully fill in the forms and also go through the discussion. So there is really clear guidance there. So if you just follow the guidance document and basically do what it says, you shouldn't have any problems. We'll try and give you a few top tips to add to it, but use that as your master and then just follow that through. And that the link is in the slides here. So it's very clear. So tips from the interview panels. So these are the kind of tips you've got. Basically read the instructions. So you really need to know what you're seeking and what you're going to demonstrate, and really you've got control of the discussion. So you're going to fill in the form and say these are where your skills are, and then you're going to lead and talk the people like Fraser and myself talk through your experiences of it. And the key thing here is, do what you've got the pink here. Essentially, you've got the answers, so make sure you do it. So if you're completing something for governance, you've got the principles there, and you've got what's necessary for the example skills. So if you're trying to score a 5, then read what it says. So make sure you've got the experience for a governance thing for leading or providing SME to the development and revision and implementation of the cyber stuff. So use the guide there to make sure that you're answering the questions. You've got control of this. And then a big thing, I think, is choosing really good case studies. So make sure that you've got the case, that you know the case study, make sure it's relevant, and find a case study that just shows your skills and competence to the best you possibly can. You're going to follow the STAR approach here for it, which for some people, sometimes it's different, other people are used to it, but basically set a situation, tell us what the task is that you did within it, tell us what the action is that you did, and give us the result. And while we tend to work in teams, this is very much about you. So when Fraser and I are hearing this, we want to hear what you did, not what the rest of the team did. It's what you did. So what was the situation? What was the task that you did? What was the action that you took? And what was the action that what was the result that you achieved? So it's very much I. So if you're not too keen on telling us all about yourself, you just overcome that and show off a bit and tell us, how you fitted in with that.
Yeah. And even if you're in a management role where you are managing a team, it's important to know what directions you gave, what leadership you provided, and what input you had. Again, it's we don't want to hear we. It's all about I.
Yeah, and it's harder than you think to do the I bit, because we're so used to, not taking credit for everything. You're part of a team, but in this case, it's definitely an I. Yeah. So the situation will be for the team. The task might be a team, but it's your action and your result that you achieved.
It's the amount of times we must say, "And what did you do?" It's a common trope when doing the discussions. So.
Yeah, and I found that when I did it, I got all my case studies written out, and then I looked at which skills I was going to hang off those case studies and make sure that they were relevant, and also make sure that I knew what was involved in the case study and what I was trying to get out of the case study, as in which of those categories or skill sets I was going to hang off that case study. And you can have the same case study that can work in more than one thing. Obviously, don't use the same case study for every single thing. So trying to just change the situation might be the same, but you might find that there's a different task you can find within that situation and a different action to get the results, and then obviously show your skill and your competence. So case studies is a really big thing. And as we said, it's make sure it was you that was involved in the case study. Have you really had that responsibility? Did you lead? Did you supervise? Did you do it?
And choose something with a reasonable degree of complexity as well. That's quite important. That we're looking for a level of complexity. So we're not looking for a particularly easy example. We're looking for something where you were stressed, or where it took some effort to get the outcome. Or indeed, we're quite happy listening to when it didn't quite work out, because that is often really, really useful when things didn't quite go the way that you would have wanted. So yeah, either works.
Yeah, and the more interesting it is, the more fascinated we get, and the more we get out of it ourselves. So it's good for us to look, because we're learning as well from your experiences. So it's good. So the other thing to do is to look at the scores. So you've got a big marking guide in the instructions, and you've got those three categories. You've got essential skills, mandatory skills, and then you're going to choose from the technical specialism skills. So make sure that the scoring is there. So within the essential skills, you're going to have at least one skill that scores a minimum of 5, and the same with the technical scores. Technical ones, you've got to have one that at least scores a 5, and we're going to probably concentrate on those 5s. We're also going to concentrate on the essential and the mandatory skills. With the whole selection of things, that's what the panel are going to want to talk to you about. They're definitely, and this quite often we'll find the essential skills come out of your introduction. So when we start this, we'll give you 5 minutes to tell us through your career and tell us about yourself, and you'll probably be able to tick off quite a few of those essential skills as part of that talk, and then we'll home in on them. So when you come to it, just make sure you know what you're talking about. So we do get a few things where it's kind of fairly basic things, and if you're not comfortable with that particular skill set, find another one. But we've had examples where people haven't been familiar with the different types of risk, or the different types of risk controls, or they get a bit confused between policies and standards. So just make sure you're really clear on your understanding of what it is you're talking about, and it's all explained in the marking guide there. So you can use that. You can almost use the marking guide and tick things off as you go along and self-mark it. And out of all of this, it's be yourself. don't perhaps try and be funny or tell us all your jokes and stuff, but just be yourself, be natural, be confident, smile. And as Fraser said, tell us about your successes and where you failed on something and where you learned from it and how it went. So in summary, I'm hoping there'll be lots of questions here, but in summary, really, what we're saying is there's these 6 things. So there's follow the guidance. It's really clearly laid out. Know what you need to demonstrate for each score and cover it. You might want to print some of this stuff out so you've got it all readily to hand, because you soon run out of screens. I know we do when we're doing the professional discussions of which screen do I have and which bit of information do I need to have to hand, because there's a lot to call on. But follow the guidance, know what you need to demonstrate for each score and make sure that you cover it. Map the case studies to the questions. That's a really good thing. So you can then make sure you're showing some breadth and depth of your skills to us. Can't say it enough, pay attention to the scoring. And if you underscore, when it goes through the process, we're not going to, if we think you're above that score, we will mark you up. Know what you're talking about and relax. So they're the key things in summary. One thing as well, just to share with you, this is what we get advised. So this is what we're told to do for the professional discussion. So Fraser and myself will get a brief similar to this. So on the discussion, we'll be told to explore and validate only the written evidence. So you're going to fill in the form. The form will get approved by another assessor, and they'll make comments on it. And then we will follow those comments and follow what's in the form to do the discussion. And the output of the discussion is for us to make a recommendation. So we won't tell you whether you've passed or been successful or not successful. We make a recommendation to the main panel, and then they will decide whether you'll be awarded. And then we'll make a judgment on the suitability of you for professional registration. And if we don't, and we'll state why what the rationale is between our judgment. And then during the discussion, obviously we're going to put you at ease. We're not trying to trip you up. We're trying to get you through this process and be as successful as you possibly can. We'll explain the purpose of the discussion. We'll give you an opportunity to expand on what you've written. We will seek further clarification from a few things. Obviously, we'll introduce ourselves just like we have today, and that will help you understand who it is you're talking to, and it might be that you just change your language slightly for different industries. We'll get you to summarise your career just to get you started, and give you 5 minutes or so for that. And then also we'll ask you open and broad questions. We're not going to be too specific. We're going to throw a question out there to give you the chance to answer and give the positive answers that we're looking for. And then the final bit. Sorry, go on, Fraser.
Generally speaking, the more you talk, the easier it is for us to get the information out. So, because sometimes we can get through interviews or the professional discussion, in where we've only asked half a dozen questions, and the rest of it's just been the extra information we get from you guys talking. It's far preferable than us trying to drag information out of people.
Yeah, so. I mean, if we don't ask you about a particular skill that you put on the form, it's generally that because we've already been satisfied with the evidence you've given elsewhere. So don't feel as if just because you haven't been asked about it that we've missed it out. We will just, we're following we're looking at all the things and just trying to get you through. And so you keep talking, give us the evidence, and then we can make our recommendation.
And we don't always slavishly go through one question at a time. What we will do is, if you give us a lot of information, we can use that to answer several different, several different of the required competencies. So we're pretty flexible about that. Hopefully.
And that's it really. I think it is read the instructions, follow those 6 things. There's you can get questions online from the resource centre, by emailing the accreditation team, phoning, and you can also ask questions now. And so, have we got any questions?
There's a few, but I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to pop some in. I've got a couple myself, just from what I've seen over the months, multiple years. With the technical skill, to say just you can provide one, but you need to meet that minimum of 5 in the technical skills. Would you advise providing more than one? The reason I say this is we've had quite a lot of people go through recently where they've put one skill in the technical area and scored it a 5, but unfortunately been downgraded to a 4. That's then an instant downgrade.
I would put a couple in, but don't fill in every box, because when we get the form and think, how are we going to get through all that in the time? So yeah, I mean, having a spare just in case you do get downgraded is a good idea, but I would beg you not to fill in every single one. I mean, great if you can, and if you've got that breadth of skill, but yeah, I mean, you've just got to hit that hurdle, but give yourself a bit of leeway to get through it.
Great. Next one I've got is, I'm sure you've come across this quite a lot, Fraser, especially doing it for as long as you have. A lot of people work in very sensitive environments.
Yes.
And how can they still get across what they've been doing without going into those specifics? That's a question we get asked so much.
I think quite a few of us, I mean, Bill and I both worked in interesting areas. You can normally articulate what you've done without going into specifics that would require secure communications. Let's put it that way. Normally you can do it via kind of innuendo, really. We understand what you mean. You don't need to go into specifics as to the solution, or even particularly who you're working with. You can normally do it more generically. So I've very rarely found it to be a problem. When it has been a problem, I think it's been a while, but we have done I think we have done interviews at locations when it was just impossible to do it otherwise, but that's pretty few and far between. I don't think I can't remember doing one since before the pandemic.
Great. Okay. No, that's great. Thanks, Fraser. Yeah. Just a couple more before I will go and read through what everyone else is putting. With preparation for the discussion, is it worth or will the discussion be based solely around the evidence in the form? Will the applicants need to prepare themselves to be asked for something that's outside of their evidence?
I don't normally. I will keep questions to within what's been on the application form. However, if someone's got additional information that's from something they hadn't written down, that can sometimes be useful and add useful context. So no, I'm not going to. I don't think we would say, well, yeah, if it's.
It wouldn't be to catch someone out. It would be to help them. So when if someone's told me that their career history, and then they're struggling on one particular piece in trying to demonstrate some evidence, I have done in the past said, well, what about the case that back then, were you not doing it then? And then the person can suddenly use that and say, oh yeah, I did do it then. I forgot about that.
What I think the thing is though, that if what's written on the application form on the application doesn't meet the requirements we have, then generally speaking, that wouldn't actually get through the initial paper sift anyway. So it's not usually a problem. But yeah, I'd say supporting information from other, we'll take information from other examples.
Okay, great. I'll be quiet now and just read out the questions that are coming through, because I've seen people have put quite a few down. So I'll just start reading. Is it okay to refer to notes during the discussion? I assume that would be absolutely fine.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
You find it very useful. Yeah.
Next one. It's been a few months since they filled in their form. Their professional discussion is this week. They've had some recent experience that might be a better fit to the criteria than what they've already written down. And I think we've probably just covered this. So, but yeah, you can bring additional evidence to the table, I think.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, definitely reread your application before the interview, because it can be quite some time since from when you fill in the form to when you actually have the interview or the discussion.
Great, thanks. So someone's asking for a link to the guidance document. Yes, I'll pop that in after, not a problem. How long is the discussion? I know we booked them in for 60 minutes. Do they all tend to last 60 minutes? Can some be shorter, or does some run over?
Yeah, both. Some are very, very short, because you just get all the information quite quickly. Others can take a wee bit longer. They take as long as they take, really, until we've when we've satisfactorily answered all the competency requirements, then that's how long it takes. But yeah, about an hour's about right.
Yeah, and I wouldn't get hung up on whether it's short or long.
No.
Take that as a guide, because sometimes it can be really interesting what you're telling us, and we get distracted.
that does happen, and sometimes we'll keep asking the same question in slightly different ways because we know you know it, and we're trying to get that out of you so we can satisfy the competency on paper. So that can take a bit of time as well. So it's not always negative at all.
Great. Thank you both very much. Other discussions online or face to face, we do offer both. We've only recently, I suppose, the past 6-ish months maybe, started to do them more in person, but we are trying to do them more regularly. So yeah, there is the option for both.
Mm-hmm.
Are there differences between CIISec and UKCSC discussions? Yes, the criteria is very different for both, and the professional registration discussions are booked in for quite a lot longer. But Fraser, you've done many of them before.
Yeah, they're a bit more. The evidence is, it's more granular, so we need to go into a bit more detail. There's quite a lot more to cover, but again, the same rules apply. Read the guidance, use the STAR format, pick good examples. That's basically, same things apply. It's just a bit more granular, but they're not. They're no more adversarial. Happily,
Great.
I'm really pleased.
Thank you very much. How do we go about putting in reasonable adjustments for neurodivergent people? I don't know if either you two want to take that, or if that's something you want probably us to answer.
I would just say let us know in advance.
Yeah.
And then we can adjust it as appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's a case of the discussion needs to be booked in for longer than the regular 60 minutes, that's obviously something we can cater for. So yeah, we try our best to assist and give you the best possible chance. So as long as you make us aware in advance, we'll cater for you the best we can. Next one, on the CIISec site, it states that you can only apply for principal as an associate member under a corporate membership. Is this the case? No, you don't need to be a corporate to apply for principal. We're actually doing sort of an offer at the moment where if you don't hold associate membership, you can purchase the principal application as well as an associate membership, where you become sort of an associate pending member until you've been through that process. If successful, your CIISec associate membership would then activate. So no, at the moment you don't need to go through associate to then apply for principal. You can almost purchase both at the same time. But if you'd like to know a bit more information, please do email the address on the screen, and I'm more than happy to give you some more information on that. How long after the discussion do they find out how they've got on? It very varies depending on timing. Some people could get very lucky and have their discussion sort of a couple of days before we load up for the next moderation panel. They sit monthly, by the way, a moderation panel. So the longest you'd be waiting shouldn't be any more than sort of 5 to 6 weeks, really. But yeah, our moderation panels sit at sort of the third week of every month. We load up for those a couple of weeks before, and they just have the final sort of say on what the award's going to be.
The UK CSC ones tend to take a bit longer.
Yeah. This goes back a bit to something we previously discussed. What if you're dyslexic and can't explain the answer properly during the discussion, but you know what you're talking about? How best can you support through the questions? I guess it goes back to, again, making you aware of the situation, and you're both experienced guys. I'm sure you've dealt with people that are neurodivergent or have dyslexia or things like that in these discussions. So again, you're there just to help them the best you can. I assume is correct.
Yeah, and we're not trying to catch people out. You know, we'll coax a bit.
Yeah, but quite often, as I said earlier, we know you know it, and so we will do our best to get that out of you.
If your expertise are more in operational technology more than IT, would you have any advice on this area? Fraser, I think
we've done a couple
well equipped to answer this one.
Yeah, I've done a couple. Really, really interesting, because it's quite a different. So it's quite a different approach. However, the advice is exactly the same. Just pick your examples well, use the star format. And yeah, I think I've done a few, and they've been really, really interesting. So no, it's not a problem at all. We're quite happy.
Great, thank you. Last one, I think we've covered off discussion yet. Discussion can be in person or face to face. I think more of a sort of a comment from Andy that the professional discussions can be influenced by responses. One response may then lead to another set of sort of questioning and discussion.
Yeah.
Something from Alex, who is also one of our
Yes.
more experienced assessors. One recommendation to consider is to perhaps make a dummy run of your application with a colleague before your discussion, where you have the opportunity to talk out loud and run through examples. Familiarising yourself with the examples helps a lot. So yeah, Alex makes a very good point there. He's like Ben and Fraser, he's done many of these over the years, so that's some good advice. Should you not get the outcome you want, how long before you can do the process again? We normally say about 6 months before you can reapply, but if there's a case where you maybe just fell short and you feel like you could have got it if maybe you performed a bit better on the day, then we could perhaps make some exceptions to that. But yeah, the guide is about 6 months. What happens if you could be the level above? Yeah, so we can't upgrade here. We can only do downgrade. So if you're not quite sure which level to apply for, bear that in mind. Because if you apply for associate and you think, gosh, this person's probably got the experience and knowledge to go for full membership, they can only award you associate. But if you went for full membership, then you can get downgraded to associate.
And that quite often we've interviewed people and gone, that's a shame, could have gone the level above. Yeah. So bear that in mind. How long do we have to wait for a discussion to be scheduled? Sarah, are you still on the call? Do you think you might know probably a bit better than I what we're looking at there time wise?
Yes, I'm still on the call. Yes, at the minute we're trying to expedite the process as much as possible. It's always the professional discussion section that takes the longest to schedule, obviously, getting it booked in, having a couple of assessors. At the minute we're looking ahead for a couple of months, and we're just going to keep working to try and make that a bit shorter.
Lovely. Thank you, Sarah. Brett, just to touch on what you said, fellowship is kind of completely separate to associate and full membership. It's against some quite specific criteria that isn't based on the skills framework. So it's only associate and full membership where we mean by where you can't sort of get upgraded through that process. If most of the experience is in the classified space, how can that be described? Is there an offline version of the process? We've kind of covered that, I think, haven't we, Fraser, that you shouldn't hopefully need to dive into those specifics, you should be able to kind of get across what you've done without naming sort of specific project names and things like that. But if you need, sorry, go on, Fraser.
Yeah, we are quite sensitive to that because it does, again, crops up quite a lot. So yeah, we're pretty sensitive to that and make accommodations. We do understand.
But yeah, is as we've said, that is something we come across quite a lot. So if you want a bit more information, just reach out to us via email or give us a call. We're happy to give a bit more guidance on that. And I think we've come to the end. So I'd like to just say a big thank you to Bill and Fraser. Hopefully that has been helpful to everyone. This has been recorded, so we should be able to share that around with everyone. But if you have any further questions or queries that you come across along your journey, please do reach out. We're here to help. We want you to get the best result you possibly can. So please do feel free to reach out. We're happy to help along the way. And at that point, I think I'll wrap up. Big thanks again, guys. Much appreciated. Looking forward to speaking to you all soon and getting you through the process.